Well, good afternoon and welcome to the October 7th Finance Committee meeting. I show that it's noon, so if you are joining us online today and you would like to comment, if you will use your virtual hand option, Jennifer will recognize you and make it available for you to speak. If you would please remain muted until she calls on you, that would be appreciated. If you're joining us here in person, if you would make sure that your personal devices are on manners mode, and if you are giving a staff report, please be sure to identify yourself when you approach the podium or if you're making public comment. And with that, we'll get started. First item, please.
Number 10, resolution reappropriating the fiscal year 2024 budget of the City of Cheyenne according to provisions of Wyoming State Statute 16-4-112 and 16-4-113.
Madam Chair, before they do the staff report, I have to declare a conflict on this one.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Johnson is declaring a conflict of interest, so he is removing himself right now. And so with that, staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. We are required to do one final reappropriation for fiscal year 24 related to our self-insurance fund. Because this is an estimate only, I'm requesting an increase of $1 million to both revenue and expenditures for the self-insurance fund to cover the incurred but not reported claims. We do not have a final number, and that won't occur until around October 18th, so I hope I estimated enough to cover this expense. Once we receive the final amount to post, I will be creating an annual report for the city's self-insurance fund, and I will provide this to both the council and to city staff. And I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Hey, are there any questions in committee? Hey, go ahead, Councilman White.
No, I don't have any questions.
Is there any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook and a second from Councilman White. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 11, resolution reappropriating the fiscal year 2025 budget of the City of Cheyenne according to the provisions of Wyoming State Statute 16-4-112 and 16-4-1113.
Staff report, please.
Hi, again, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. Before you is the first reappropriation for the new fiscal year 2025. I do this carryover reappropriation each year after we are done with our year-end closing activities. It includes fiscal year 24 carryover balances from various funds and grants, as well as encumbrances, which are purchase orders that have not been paid, but they've been created as of June 30th. I have provided a detailed memo to you, but please let me know if you have additional questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions from committee? Okay, any public comments? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook, second from Councilman Johnson. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 14A, memorandum of understanding between the City of Cheyenne and the Downtown Development Authority to coordinate repair of sidewalks identified as trip hazards.
Hey, do we have a staff report, please?
Madam Chair.
There you go. You're right.
Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, Irene Parsons with the Downtown Development Authority, and the item for consideration is an MOU between the city and the Downtown Development Authority, and the purpose of the MOU is to coordinate the repair of sidewalks identified as extreme, severe, or significant hazards by the city engineer's office, and to allow the city to receive reimbursement for all sidewalk repairs made by the city's contractor. Reimbursement to the city will come from the DDA and the property owner at a 50-50 ratio. Pursuant to Cheyenne City Code 124120B, the city will be responsible for any curb and gutter repair associated with the sidewalk construction, and responsibilities outlined in the MOU are summarized below. And the DDA's responsibility would be outreach to the property owners It is a voluntary program at that point where we would collect payment from the property owner at the rate of 50% so that we can, through this MOU, pay the city engineer's office who will be coordinating the project and getting the sidewalk repaired. And in some cases, it's a temporary repair, but at least it's a repair to prevent any injury or other handicap accessibility issues. I also have Tom Cobb here with the city engineer's office who can kind of further explain this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. I did a little slide because I think it kind of clears this up a little bit. It's a little confusing as we move through. So I've kind of gone through a couple iterations of this as we met as a committee with the DDA and sort of how it would follow itself through. So Jennifer, you could go to the second slide, please. And I'm going to have to get a little closer to the screen, which means this mic's going to go a little crazy. Oh, you did it. Thank you. She put it right in front of me. So I think that the first thing is when we state how are these identified, these are for either extreme, severe, and significant pieces that have either mostly been identified by the public. So if somebody's come to us and there's been basically a complaint, or somebody has come and said there is some hazard out there, those are the ones we're looking at first. The second part of this is we are, again, as they're identified, this program is completely voluntary on the property owner's part. The program then would be, we have two different pieces in place, which she mentioned. We've got a curb and gutter replacement program, which is a public program. And basically what I've got set up right now are three $70,000 projects that rehabilitate the curb and gutter, okay? That's the bigger piece of this. And I've started on the parade routes and focused on Capitol Avenue right now as that program. Now, there's money in that. As I said, there are three $70,000 projects. We've reserved the last 70 for this pilot program. So if there is curb and gutter in the area where that they have sidewalk issues, then that's going to be available to them to do, okay? So that's where I wanted to clarify that there are basically two separate programs. Then this other one, of course, is the sidewalk rehabilitation program, where if the curb and gutter again is debilitated, we can replace it. But this is where the DDA then approaches the property owner. And this is what has to be explained that's not been clear to everyone. It's the property owner's responsibility to fix that sidewalk, and it is a liability on the property owner. Their insurance, if someone trips and falls here, they're liable. And I think we're missing that point in this. So if it's been identified as a hazard, this program's available to help assist and be able to help pay for these repairs that are absolutely necessary on behalf of the property owner. So when the DDA does approach them, this is where they'll begin to talk about this, that this program's available to them. And I call that number one, which is the public-private partnership. This is where the DDA then, as she indicated, would then basically, we're doing all the facilitating, we're doing the design, we're setting up the contracts, doing all the work for the property owner in this program. And then the DDA pays us then for the work that we have paid the contractor for. So then that's done. So, but it's the property owner's participation, as you see on the right, reimbursement is both coming from the DDA and the property owner themselves. And again, on the city's behalf, we're the one just facilitating the program, and we're actually giving them economy of scale. And what I mean is we've set up a bigger, larger picture job where then they do end up some savings with this. All right, but they do have an option to do this on their own. The property owner, when they talk about this, then that would be between the property owner setting up all that stuff, doing all the design, getting the contractor out, and then they might be available for the DDA's CIG program, which is completely separate from this, okay? The third option they have, if a property owner refuses to fix it, again, it is their liability, then there's the hammer piece, which is the code reference that Charles likes to talk about all the time. I don't like to use that, but it is available as the city as an option. If they refuse to do it, I can send them a letter, it kicks in the code, and then there's a window and timeline that they have to fix those repairs. And that would come directly out of the fifth penny. If they didn't want to pay it, then we could then lien the property, which that's not, nobody wants to do that. So we really want to look at this as a potential, as a feather to say, we have this program available to you. The city is willing to facilitate this. The DDA is matching half of the cost, and it's a great program. It's a liability that you have. I hope that clears it up a little bit, Dr. Aldridge and members of the Finance Committee, and I'm here and available for questions.
Thank you. Councilman Cook.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Cobb, do we have, or either one of you, to staff, do we have an idea, just a general ballpark idea of how many of these would qualify? I mean, how many spots are we talking about?
Dr. Aldrich, through you to Councilman Cook. Councilman, we don't have a full extent, you know, I've done, without looking in a lot more
Right.
detail. But I can tell you, it's more than 10, and it's probably less than 1,000, but it's somewhere in between, okay? I mean, I without going into the detail here, we have significant hazards that are all over the downtown. How severe they are, classification wise, I wouldn't say that, you know, for the most part, I think most of them are pretty good, but without knowing, I guess I'm not answering your question, but there's a lot, okay? But they're not, it's not, I don't know, okay?
No, you are answering my question. And like I said, that I didn't ask that to put either one of you on the spot. I was just looking for just a general ballpark, but.
Madam Chairman, to the councilman, we currently have one particular project that we are starting with as our pilot program, and we have identified some other areas that we may continue with, but we want to start with the first project and make sure it goes smoothly, and then we can fine tune it. Once again, this is a pilot program, so we want to make sure that we work out all the kinks before, but we do have one project currently identified.
Councilman Johnson?
Mine's more in regards to your timeline. So the MOU was stamped on September 18th. The memo came on September 23rd. And then it says at the time of the preparation of this memo, the DDA board had not considered this MOU. The MOU will be reviewed by the DDA board at their September 19th, 2024 meeting. So since this memo happened on the 23rd and the meeting happened on the 19th, what was the DDA's decision on this MOU?
The MOU was presented by hard copy to the DDA Board of Directors at the September meeting. At the September meeting. And they approved it to be forwarded to the Finance Committee at that time.
Did they have any concerns on their part as far as their reimbursement and what the goal was of this entire MOU? Did anybody have any discussion?
At the meeting, they did not, but they had just seen the MOU. And so if there are concerns, they have not been expressed to the DDA membership or to the DDA staff.
Okay, so I guess since we didn't really do any follow-up with them, but by them having no contact with us, we viewed that was a non-issue on behalf of the board. Is that correct?
At the time of the discussion of the MOU, Councilman Roybal, who is also the president of the DDA board, made it clear that if they would like to come to this meeting, it would be discussed at this meeting, and they're welcome to come to it if they had concerns that they want to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
And we did do a reminder to them.
Okay.
Okay, I had a question. Is there a specific, you mentioned Capitol Avenue. Are you trying to work in a particular area so that people can see impact? Or is this just going to be random throughout the downtown area?
Dr. Aldrich, just to answer your question directly, I think, again, my focus on the curb and gutter program was Capitol Avenue. Obviously, it's the one that's exposed by the parade route, and we're looking at that specifically. In regard to this program, and again, it's a pilot program, so we're trying to see just how this all is going to work together. They've established a starter money, right? The $100,000 that comes to us. And right now it's simply focused on ones that we received particular complaints about, as I indicated. So the sidewalk program's separate. Again, particular complaints, curb and gutter replacement. I'm focused on higher volume areas that traffic we get visitors to, and trying to get that complete.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Okay, public comment. Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman White. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Johnson.
I just wanted to actually, Councilman Laybourne and I have been working on this for several months. I just want to tell staff and the DDA, Kylie's been super receptive, I believe, to Councilman Laybourne on his behalf and as well as me through emails. So I do really appreciate the due diligence you guys have put in for the concern that him and I reported earlier this year. So thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 15C, contract modification number 1 to contract number 7829 between the City of Cheyenne and GBP LLC to extend the lease agreement for up to an additional 12 months for the property located at 7829 Faith Drive.
I have 6725.
6725.
Okay, okay. Okay, staff report.
Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. Madam Chair, that is correct. 6725 is the address. I apologize. I had made an error when I first submitted this. We caught it and made a correction, and that's what you have before you. But this contract modification is to add another 12 months to the current lease we have for the Frontier building while we construct the new gymnastics facility. The cost of rent went up a little based on expenses that the property owner said they had. Hopefully we will not be there for 12 more months, but I ask for your approval and stand by for questions.
Hey, are there any questions from committee? Councilman Johnson.
Just one. So in the contract, it says that we as the tenant notified them within 90 days prior to that. So when we know that the gymnastics field facility out by the Ice and Event Center is near completion and we have kind of a posted opening date, is that, so you guys are on top of that as far as the notification so we don't get caught?
Madam Chair, through you to Councilman Johnson. That's correct. Both parties will give each other 90 days notice if they happen to sell or if we know when we're going to move in. So we're tracking that closely. Every month counts, for the rental fee. So we are on top of that.
Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount not to exceed $16,100 per month.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman Cook. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Okay,
Aye.
okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 15D, contract modification number 1 to contract number 7989 between the City of Cheyenne and William H. Smith and Associates for design services addressing one additional alleyway for the Cheyenne 3 alleyway project.
Okay, staff report.
Good morning again, Dr. Aldrich and members of the Finance Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. So before you and for your consideration is contract modification number 1 to contract number 7989 for William H. Smith. And again, this is all ones that you all wanted me to move forward. This is to add the alley. It's now 4 alleys, not 3, for between 16th and 17th and Warren and Central for the area that would be known as the Sanford's area. This is a cost not to exceed of $39,639.67. So for the total contract, it was $149,885.67. I understand Mr. Berta put this on before me for my behalf, and I think there was an error. So I think that's been corrected on the sheets that you have now. And with that, I'll have any questions that you might have on me.
Okay, and just note there's a Scrivener's error to pull the 67 cents down to the new contract amount. So, any questions from committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Councilman
So,
Johnson.
when we read this into the, and as far as the motion, would you prefer just to have it as the not to exceed the 39,639? Is it still 67 according to the red on that one?
That is correct.
And then nothing more after that? Or are you fine with us just doing that without bringing up all the total amounts?
Dr. Aldrich, through you, yes, I think that'd be fine, Councilman Johnson. That'd be great. And then just to make sure that we're all on the same page as well, sir, this would be from the 6 Penny downtown.
Any other questions from committee? Hey, any public comment? Well, welcome, Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is, I'm here today to speak in favor of this addition. I think it's only sensible. It is important, and I think that the combination of the alley between Warren and Central, and then Central and Capitol are really the heart of downtown and the heart of the alley problem. So I'm certainly in favor of that. Madam Chairman, I have some concerns here about the alley itself, its condition, and some of the factors that come into play here. I noticed that one of the things in this contract is the effort to get a enclosure around the trash. And I certainly recognize that's a big order. Now there's a lot of dumpsters lining that area, particularly by Sanford's. But even more importantly than that, Madam Chairman, and I hope this isn't considered to be speaking outside the motion, but I want to speak to the intent of this effort. And surely the intent of this effort is to improve public safety, improve the access that the people have to the alley. And I think we all remember the problem not very long ago with the touring group at the Lincoln Theater that actually was hurt by the grease slipperiness in the alley. And I, of course, have been interested in that issue for actually many years. And certainly there were some efforts that were made, but I would note to all members of the committee here, I was downtown yesterday and there is a strip of grease, a grease trail that runs from Sanford's down that alley, across Central, down the alley to Capitol, and then down the alley to Cary. I'm really curious how we can, and this also includes the grease containment area of the Plains Hotel, which hopefully someday will be back in business. But how do we get a solution to these issues outside of this contract? That isn't in this contract. What's the intent? Well, the intent is pretty clear. We should improve the drainage. We should attempt to control the trash better. I'm not sure what results are going to come out of the look at the utilities and what can be done there, since in my non-professional opinion, those utilities are pretty old in terms of the poles that hold them up. And I certainly look forward to that. And I recognize this is an important first step. So let's take that first step comprehensively. Madam Chairman, am I within the intent of this motion before you to discuss this problem with the grease?
Well, we don't have a motion yet, so we're still under discussion, but I would say that I don't know if Engineer Cobb, I don't see where the grease is included in this particular motion, but I know that it's a concern. I've also had city or local businesses that border that same strip of grease. And I would also almost think that it may be a compliance issue with grease disposal, since grease disposal isn't supposed to be poured out into the trash. So I think that there's several areas where this may overlap. So if it's okay with the committee, I would give Councilman Laybourne leeway to discuss this. Does anybody have a objection to that?
It's certainly your purview, Chair.
Okay, I'll give you leeway to discuss that. Councilman
Well,
Laybourne?
I think I have.
Okay.
And I don't want to take up more time.
There you go, done.
This
Okay.
is an example, Madam Chairman, of an issue that I have from time to time. And I've had issues of this regard in this committee.
when we look at a contract of this nature, I think it's only proper for a council person to look at the intent. And the intent might be more than just what's in the contract. It might be something that needs to be referred, as was mentioned here, to other departments and some sort of report and understanding. Because this whole question of the alleys and their repair and improvement goes back a number of years. And I'm not sure if some members were on the council at that time when we came up with a very high dollar plan to do these particular two alleys, this additional one and the original there between Central and Capitol, millions of dollars. Nothing became of it. It was a total waste of money. And yet, I think we all know that alleys are important. So I certainly speak in favor of this extension and look forward to continuing this discussion as to these issues that are so much the problem. It's a real problem there. And it's been that way for years. I've been with every agency that I could possibly contact about it. Things have gotten minimally better. But that track of grease that is there right now is a detriment to our downtown. So I appreciate your time and I look forward to reviewing this issue further. Again, I think it's only sensible to include this in this contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Laybourne. Is there any further discussion, public comment? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount not to exceed $39,639.67.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman White. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Director Nemechek, if you can approach the podium in regards to Councilman Laybourne's concern on the roll-off sanitation container enclosure. If you were included in those discussions, if this is going to cause an impediment with sanitation services that they currently are, because it looks like per Google Maps, there's not currently enclosures. It's just the dumpsters against the wall. So were you involved in these discussions?
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works, through you, Chair. No, I was not. But I will tell you that an enclosure is not going to stop grease.
I'm not worried about the grease necessarily. I'm worried about looking at how your truck picks them up. So would this cause any problems with
I don't think we could get through the alleys with the trucks anymore.
Okay. I'll let Engineer Cobb follow up.
Sorry, Madam Chair, through you to Councilman Johnson. So again, this is the first element, right? We have to get somebody on board to take a look at some different options. It's just an option that comes up with, but we're going to consult with Public Works as we move forward to whatever solution's made. But I want to be perfectly clear with these grease traps, and I don't have any jurisdictional control on this. This is the Board of Public Utilities is directly involved in this, and they will be included in these discussions, and the property owner themselves. And so those two items can't be forgotten. Okay, I don't think we're not gonna solve, I'm not gonna pretend that we're gonna solve every issue related to these alleys with the kind of money we're looking at here. This is just design components and looking at what we can do. To actually implement this as we move forward, we're talking about different dollars here. So let's be clear on where we are. Sorry about that. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have another question. Engineer Cobb, I'm just curious, since this is only about the design element and there was discussion about this previously, evidently. If I remember correctly, that was happening right about the time I was coming on council. And one of the big money issues was actually the utility, changing utilities to underground rather than overhead. Have you guys looked at, or is that other plan just, is that being referred to at all, or is that just out of the picture now?
Madam Chair, just to directly answer your question, the only alley right now that's being considered for that is the one on the St. Mary's alley, because in that case, we're looking at vacating that alley and they're going to participate at least in half of the construction. And then we're going to give them that alley in perpetuity for them to just take over maintenance.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 16E, consideration of bid number E-11-24 for 2 trucks for the City of Cheyenne Weed and Pest Division.
Staff report, please.
Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. Madam Chair, before you and the committee today is request to purchase 2 vehicles for our Weed and Pest Division. The funding for the 2 trucks would come out of the Weed and Pest budget. And as you guys know, over the last couple of years, the staff at Weed and Pest has tried to rely less and less on contractors and doing more and more in-house. And in order to be able to accomplish that, I need to have a couple vehicles for them to go and test check our monitoring equipment and to inspect the mosquito producing sites that we know we have around town. And so I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid from Ken Garf, Cheyenne, Wyoming, in the amount not to exceed $86,514.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman White and Cook. Is there any further discussion from committee? All in favor, say aye.
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 This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 16F, consideration of bid number E-3-25 for 4 trucks, mid-size regular cab crew cab for the City of Cheyenne Fire and Rescue Department. Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the council. My name is Lieutenant Neil Durrani with Cheyenne Fire and Rescue. I'm here to present a consideration for purchase of 4 vehicles. We have a bid from Ken Garf for $334,829, which will include coming out of Fifth Penny funds. This is to replace some other aging and outdated vehicles. One of which was to replace one of our battalion chief trucks with a newer piece of apparatus that was, our old one is getting ready to hit its lifespan. The other one, we have two small mid-sized vehicles that we'll be going to community risk reduction to replace some older SUVs that they have there, as well as those vehicles have some high maintenance issues as well. Sorry. Lastly, we have one other full-size utility truck that for the department. This truck is be replacing one that's over 20 years old, has other mechanical issues as well. That current truck is used for hauling trailers, equipment, gear, manpower, as well as a snowplow for our apparatus in the wintertime. With that, I have you stand for any questions.
Yes, Lieutenant, there's a different amount. You said 324,829. Okay. And then we have an amount of less trades of 324,622.
Okay.
So is the amount that we're approving the 324,829 that you stated?
PJ speak on that.
Chairwoman Aldrich, TJ Bartlebort, Purchasing Manager. Just to confirm, the total amount we're requesting for bid award is the $324,622. That other price was just the price without the trades having been removed. So
great, thank you. Okay. Any questions from committee? Okay. Any public comment? I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid from Ken Garf Cheyenne in the amount not to exceed $324,622.
Second.
Hey, we have a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman Cook. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please. Number 16G, consideration of bid number E-2-25 for 10 new 4-door 2024-2025 model utility police interceptors for the City of Cheyenne Police Department. Staff report.
Good afternoon. I'm Joel Hickerson with the Cheyenne Police Department. What you have before you is a bid for 10 new Ford Explorer Police Interceptor vehicles. 6 of those will be our standard marked patrol vehicles with full transport cages. One will be a marked patrol vehicle with a half cage. One will be a marked patrol canine cage. One will be a marked patrol supervisor vehicle. And the last one will be a canine traffic dual purpose vehicle. We learned not to use the word hybrid because that can be confusing. There were two companies which submitted quotes for this bid process. The first one was Ken Garf. They provided a quote of $741,000 and $741,752. And Dana Safety Supply provided a quote of $703,288.39. Based on these two bids, Dana Safety Supply was selected as the builder for these vehicles. The production time is estimated to be about 1 year out for purchase and upfit. And I do want to mention, these vehicles are paid with the voter-approved fifth penny sales tax, and I want to thank the community for continuing to support that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee? I didn't see any trade-in values. Are we not trading anything in? We're just adding to our fleet?
That's correct. Based on the level of use we're getting from vehicles and our need for spare vehicles with a growing agency, we're retaining all of those.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, public comment. Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid from Dana Safety Supply, Livingston, Montana, in an amount not to exceed $703,288.39.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman Cook. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 16H, consideration of bid number S-5-25 for an agreement between the City of Cheyenne and S&S Builders LLC for the Pronghorn Crossing Site Infrastructure Project.
Staff report, please.
Madam Chair, Paul Bellotti, City Project Manager. This is for site prep, including drainage, sewage, roads, and sidewalks for Pronghorn, where Habitat for Humanity will be building approximately 10 units. Total cost of the contract is $2,039,808. We currently have $1,751,500 left in our grant. So we currently have a deficit of $298,308. However, the teams are getting together to do value engineering, and we believe that with a few different savings as well as deferment to Habitat for Humanity for some of the project during their vertical build, we will meet the grant amount. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? Councilman Johnson.
So, Paul, the way that it's read, would you prefer us just to end where I move to accept in the amount of the 2 million? Do you want it included with the 1 million from ARPA funds and 297 from, in here it's blank. So would you prefer it just to end at not to exceed that amount? Would that be cleaner language for you instead of including the funding mechanisms?
Just to be clear, Madam Chair, just to be clear, so because you're in a deficit, we needed to pick another funding source, as was my understanding. So that's why it's blank. So general fund reserves would be what you would choose, and we'll just hope that we don't have to take it from that. That was my understanding. So that's what's on your sheet.
Chairwoman Aldrich, TJ Bartle, Board Purchasing Manager. Through you to Councilman Johnson, I do think it is appropriate to approve the contract amount exactly for the $2,039,808, with the funding split needing to be identified with the funding source. I mean, the splits might vary a little bit depending on the grant dollars at the end of the day when it all shakes out, but that is the full contract amount.
So would you prefer the language actually after the 2 million amount is to say with pending funding approval? Is that clearer for you? Instead of having all these numbers and especially a blank, I don't like a blank. So it would say with a, no, I get that.
General reserve.
But in order to put general fund reserves, that's a dedicated thing that goes into the record. And if that's not what we're going with, it would probably be beneficial to actually state that it's coming from future identifiable funds or something along that line instead of splitting it out.
It's the only fund we have, it was my understanding. So we gotta fill that in.
I mean, TJ, just,
Councilwoman Aldrich through you to Councilman Johnson, excuse me. It's my recommendation that you approve the full contract amount and identify general fund reserves for any deficit needed.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Oh my goodness. Any public comment? Okay. Are you public comment? Or are you?
Madam Chairman, through you, Amber Ash, Chief of Staff. We do have, well, oh yes, we do have Mayor Collins on. He may wish to weigh in on this, but to be clear, at the end of the day, any deficit will have to be made up by Habitat for Humanity. The city is not going to make up that deficit.
Okay, okay, thank you. Any other question, any other public comment? Hey, I would entertain, oh, go ahead, Dan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dan Dorsch, Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity of Laramie County. To Ms. Ash's point, Habitat will be picking up the overages for this. As you all are probably aware, this was a grant from the state for ARPA funds for the infrastructure, which is allowing us to move forward with this project because we've had this land for 4 years and haven't been able to do anything with it because of the cost of the infrastructure. So we are going to be starting a campaign for raising funds for this project. So, and we already have a little bit of funds if needed in the immediate future to get this infrastructure rolling. So we are welcome to be covering the overages for this project.
And I understand that you've also done some cost-effective engineering with our engineering department. So we're hoping not to have to use any of, we're hoping that there won't be an overage, is my understanding.
Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. We're currently working with the engineer and the bid on the contract to work through that to lower the amount.
Okay, great, thank you.
And one other point I'd like to correct, we're actually putting 12 units, not 10.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because that's on here. More public comment? Just more information for the committee. We'll make sure that you get this, Jeff, as well. Mr. Klon is handing out a cost savings idea sheet, and we'll make sure that you get this as well, Jeff.
Okay, can I have a follow-up? Not necessarily for Dan, but TJ, can you come back up here again, please?
And I had a question for somebody.
I think Councilman Cook was first. So Councilman Cook, go ahead with your question.
I guess, and this, I don't know if TJ can answer this. It might be a question for Dan, honestly, or maybe Paul, but so then what is the timeline for this then? If Habitat still has the funds to raise, what is the timeline for construction? I mean, my guess is not until they've met their obligation, or is that how this is going to work?
Councilwoman Aldrich, through you to Councilman Cook.
This isn't imminent.
Sure. The grant funding that we received through the state needs to be spent by October 31st, 2026. So we have that long, that matches the construction completion date of the contract so that they have a adequate construction season to get all this work done in preparation for the funds to be generated to fund Habitat's portion of the enterprise.
And this is just infrastructure, is
correct. This is nothing, no vertical construction here. This is just site plan, civil stuff.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson.
TJ, sorry. So now, after Ms. Ash spoke, is the way that this is supposed to read, instead of the 297,490 coming from general fund reserves, does it now have to say coming from Habitat for Humanity? Is that what I'm putting here?
It is my understanding that based on the staff report provided by Mr. Dorsch, that I would recommend not providing general fund reserve, and funding to be provided by Habitat for Humanity would be the most appropriate.
My understanding is that this contract has to, the grant cannot be received by Habitat. It has to be given to a municipality. So that's why the city is acting as basically a pass-through on this grant. And I think grant writer, sorry, not grant writer, but Renee is here to explain this. Whatever your new title is.
Renee Smith, Economic Resource Administrator. We brought the whole family today on this one. So yes, this was the Wyoming ARPA funds. We were awarded in December. We got the contract from the state in June. So we busted to get to work because the state's holding us accountable to have a contract for the construction this month. So it is fairly urgent. And we do believe we're going to be able to get the cost below. I know you've, Mr. Klon handed all that out to you, and we've been meeting regularly with the entire team trying to see where we can cost save, and it's pretty, because of the timeline, we haven't had time to present that complete package, but we are really confident we'll be able to get this under budget in this 2 years when it's due. So yeah, we have to have construction done by 2026. And the reason why the city, another reason is because this is a reimbursable grant, which puts a huge burden on Habitat for Humanity. So the city is partnering because we were the grantor, but we are also the one with the capacity to see this through, if that makes sense.
I guess my only question is how I read this into the record. So now going back after what Dr. Aldrich has said, yeah, do I need to say general fund reserves, or do I need to say Habitat for Humanity? Just tell me what I say in the presentation.
Can we say Habitat for Humanity, please?
Michelle has a kind of a disagreement. She believes since we're acting as a pass-through, we should put general fund reserves in there, not Habitat for Humanity, because of the grant specifications, correct? That's why I want to make sure when I read this in, because this is official record, that this is where it's going to come. If it's general fund reserves, I'll say that. If it's Habitat for Humanity, I'll say that. I just need to know what you want me to read into the record.
Yeah, but he's taking his thing.
Mayor Collins, do you want to speak at all to this?
Madam Chairman, welcome. Nice to see you guys. It would be my preference that we don't use general fund reserves in this, with the idea being that if we can't value engineer this, there's pieces of this we can leave out. And then when Habitat does their vertical construction, they can add those, like sidewalks. We don't have to build the sidewalks with the grant. We could leave those for Habitat. So it would be my preference that we don't leave any misunderstandings going forward, that our responsibility here is we're acting as a pass-through, helping Habitat get these 12 affordable housing units done. But there's no obligation on our part or willingness to spend more than what the grant is. So that would be my preference.
Where did Renee go? Okay.
Madam Chair, one of the issues is we do not have an MOU with Habitat right now for this project. So is it?
And we have to have this approved by this month in order for us to access the grant.
Madam Chair, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. I just had a conversation in the back with Dan. We'll start an MOU that will between Habitat Humanity and the City of Cheyenne, and it will clarify where we're headed with their interest in this, and they're responsible for the amount of cost it's any overages. And I believe at the bottom there, what we're looking at is approximately $30,800 and some dollars. The red on the very bottom that Doug presented to you is the amount that we believe is a shortfall with the subtractions that the mayor has spoke about.
Yeah, and I think it's been updated to 40,855 according to this. So I guess we're still back on this question that if we put Habitat for Humanity in that blank, we right now don't have an MOU. So I'm thinking we've got the cart before the horse, so to speak. So what would you like us to do, Stephanie? So Stephanie? That's fine. It's a good question.
While they're discussing, I'd like to note for the record that Councilman White left the meeting at approximately 12:44 p.m.
Thank you, Jennifer. Stump the staff day.
Okay, my proposal, Madam Chair, through you and Mayor, if you would approve it, could we authorize using up to $40,000 of city ARPA money to match?
Mayor, yeah.
Madam Chairman, through you, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so using city ARPA money, 6 penny, no, ARPA money, sorry.
Which one? Yes. Are you okay with that? Richard? He's rewriting his statement. It's okay. It does take a village, doesn't it?
I'm done doing these things. You guys can figure out your own. I feel like I get in trouble every time with these being. No, this one's. So do 1742 3 8 plus 49.
That's
2,000, right? So it's gonna be, this is gonna be an amount to exceed 0.7 with, this is 0.728 ARPA funds and an additional, up to an additional.
$40,000.
For city.
No.
Okay, well then, I don't know. Somebody write it.
One.
There's something that's more.
Okay.
And.
Okay, can you write what you want me, this language here, can you write, you want?
One, whatever, and then for. For project, this is a place whatever. You do your value in the better place so that you can get this.
You hear that, Richard? Large project funds.
So is this a clean sheet?
Here, this is a clean sheet. And 6 penny large project fund. I don't know. Is that what it's called? Mayor Collins, the question now is, could we use the 6 penny large project fund for the overage of what we expect to be about $40,000?
Madam Chairman, through you, as long as we're just using it as a placeholder, it's still my preference that we not spend city money on this. It's a habitat project, right?
Right. So, but it would be okay with you to use it as a placeholder so that we can get this contract through? Thank you. Okay. Okay, did you used to write people's papers in school too?
Okay. So, okay. So, Madam Chair, move to accept the bid amount not to exceed $2,039,808 with $1,742,000 and $2,906.
And Stephanie, you'll work on a MOU for Monday night?
Okay, so this one's correct, right? Okay.
So Stephanie will work on an MOU for Monday night. between this and Habitat in the city. Meet their deadline. Okay, we can get everybody's attention again. Thank you all for your patience while we perfected the wording on this. So is there a motion?
Okay, yes, we finally have a motion. Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid in an amount not to exceed $2,039,808 with $1,751,500 from ARPA funds and $298,308 from 2021 6-penny large project fund.
Okay, is there a second?
For the purpose, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I second it today, but I have some significant concerns about this.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This item will move forward with recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. We've completed all of our actions for today on the agenda. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great day. This meeting is adjourned.